Hi everybody. In this video by his nibs, also known as Norman, we're going to be taking a look at the newest from Asvine, the V200 vacuum filler. As you can see, I've already filled this, and I'm going to show the filling of this pen in the subsequent video. The subsequent video is going to be quite a bit different than any I've done before. I started doing fountain pen videos on YouTube back in 2007, so it's 17 years, and this particular event never happened before. And the event was while I was doing my always probably too long videos, I must have hit the slow motion option on my phone camera, and somehow turned it off again. I don't know how any of this happened. I didn't have a camera on me to observe what the hell I was doing. But subsequently, about 18 minutes, sort of like the missing Nixon Watergate 18-minute gap on the tapes, was in slow motion, whereas the beginning of the video and the end of the video were normal speed. I went through every different video program, including YouTube itself, that I possess. I downloaded several, just trying to correct this. It was challenging. And I got something that I think is presentable, but a little different, because I hate reshooting videos, especially long videos. So what you're going to hear is, or what you're going to see is a normal video at video speed, but my voice is going to be a little deeper than normal. It's going to sound like either I have the worst head cold known to man, or that I need the exorcist to come by. It's sort of like this, very deep, but intelligible. So I decided to leave it as it is and have a little fun with it. And so it's not my normal voice. And that's about all I have to say. Hope you enjoy it. It's different. And is there anything else I wanted to say in this introduction? Oh, so I do show the filling of the Vacuumatic in the video. Very similar to, this one is empty. This is the V126, an earlier Asvine vac filler. And just very, very briefly, for those who are not familiar, you crack the rear cap, pull the vacuum knob, much like a piston, but it doesn't feel like a piston, back. You dip the front of the nib in a bit of the section in the ink, and then boom. And when it gets past this point, what will happen is this part of the barrel internally is a little bit wider than the reservoir here. Once you go past that point where you see the line here, the ink will begin to fill into the reservoir. And what is a little bit different about not Vacuumatic, it's an old Parker, a great Parker pen. Vacuum fillers is that when you turn the knob closed, it's like a shut-off valve. So the reservoir of ink is separated from the section, feed, and nib. Consequently, these are great if you want to travel by air somewhere and there are changes of pressure, or as you're ascending Mount Everest. Ink is not going to come gushing out of the nib. Howsomever, when you have this shutoff valve engaged, you're left with whatever ink is in the section, feed, and nib. So what a lot of writers do is they just crack this open a little bit so that while they're writing, ink is flowing normally to the feed and nib. And so there's not really a reason to use this shutoff valve when you're writing at your desk or at home. Boy, that was long-winded for what I'm already going to show you in the video. But I wanted you to hear my normal voice for a bit longer. So, thank you. See you anon. Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at the new Asvine V200. And V for vacuum filler. Comes in the standard Asvine box, outer sleeve box, and an inner plastic box. They always ship now with this wonderful tool that allows you to disassemble either one of their pistons or one of their vacuumatic pens. This time it comes with two little silicone O-rings, and I'll get to that a bit later as to why those are there. Instruction manual, which is now very thorough. In fact, the first thing shown is vac filling and then piston filling, eyedropper filling using a converter, use of cartridge ink, maintaining your fountain pen, sales and service. Doing a good job, Asvine. And here is the pen. This is the V200, and it is titanium and acrylic. And this is actually the second titanium and acrylic model that Asvine has produced. The first one was this. Still has some ink in it. I use this quite regularly. And let's see if I can get a close-up of the band. And this is the V126. And this is a redesign, as I mentioned when I reviewed this pen. Initially, the cap band was a little bit higher, exposing the acrylic by itself, which is always a breakage or chipping point if one drops their pen, which of course I never do. But they redesigned it so that the titanium goes all the way to the end of the cap to protect it. And titanium being lighter, although tougher than steel, very, very light and easy in the hand. and well balanced. And this can be capped, but again, there was always the danger of mistakenly turning the cap while you're writing, which would turn the piston knob and could force ink out of the feed onto your fingers, onto your table, onto your whatever. I'm not a poster normally anyway, as I've mentioned many times, so I don't recommend it with this pen, and it's plenty long enough that there's no need to post. So that's the V126. And here we have the V for vacuum filler 200. And a sharp looking pen, as have all the Asvines been. Most Asvines have the rounded finial and barrel end, either piston knob or vac plunger knob. But here they've gone for this very attractive flat end design, something a bit new for them, and it looks, I think, very handsome. And you'll notice this design element. This appears to be two black design pieces on the end of the vac knob, but actually these are those O-rings which I mentioned were included this time with this pen. So these are extras. And beside looking sharp as a design element, this has been done so that one can post securely. And as I don't know if you heard that, let me try it again. That little whooshing sound. The inner acrylic of the cap adheres very snugly to these O-rings, and so you have a cap that's never going to come off, even as I'm shaking the camera. Many early reviewers of this pen said that when they remove the cap, the O-rings would come off. They seem to have corrected that, because I've tried this many, many times and have never had a problem. But I guess occasionally it is a problem, so they've included these extra O-rings. So titanium section and titanium finial clip, center band says, hopefully the lighting is good here. As always, I'm changing my setup. Asvine, I'm at a different desk, my third desk. V200 on the rear. I won't know how this video comes out until I complete it, so I think it might be okay. And actually this can, which is somewhat of a rarity for a vac filler, you can unscrew the section O-ring there for tight fit and security, but this enables you to clean from this end very easily by just pulling back on the vac filler plunger. So you can get in here very, very easily to change or clean any ink residue, rather than needing to use the included tool to remove the entire assembly, which you can do, but very rarely is that ever needed. You might do it for lubrication of the rod, but that might be a number of years down the road, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. So that's a nice feature, and you hear the normal pop of a vac filler as you reach this point, and the barrel expands slightly. And as most of you know, when you push to that point, partial vacuum has been created and ink is sucked up into the barrel, which I will demonstrate once again momentarily. So let's screw the section and nib back in. This is I believe it's a medium nib. Again, when I'm looking through the camera, it's always a little difficult to see. I'm 95% sure this is a medium that I ordered. And screw this back down. And I've brought out something I've had probably for 25 years, which is this writing desk, this slope. Originally got this as a gift, I think from, if I recall correctly, from my wife Teresa and my mother Phyllis. It was sort of a joint gift. And this was from Levenger. So, okay, I have it locked. Let me hold the camera and unlock it. And throw the key down on the ground, which you didn't see, fortunately, but you heard. And here is this beautiful writing slope with a number of storage compartments. Here is the ink that we'll be using, which I'm almost 100% sure is Schaefer King's Gold. But this particular bottle, which has never been opened, is so old that the label has aged and can't see the color anymore as far as the label is concerned. But again, I'm almost 1,001% sure that this is King's Gold. Put that aside for a second, and I can open this section of the slope for additional supplies. So I have my normal nibs pad, but why don't we just for giggles, use this stipula one, which I think I've only written in once, one page, many, many years ago. So we'll use that for a writing sample. Let me close this for the moment so that I can use both hands to fill the Asvine V200. So these Schaefer bottles, you can see the clear section here, are terrific because they have a little extra reservoir. If you turn the bottle upside down, you can fill that reservoir to get the very last of the ink out and accessible for your pen. Obviously this is a new bottle, so that won't be necessary to use. Oh yeah, that is the gorgeous King's Gold. I've used this fairly regularly in cartridge form for various Schaefer pens, but as I said, this bottle is a new one. So here we have on the left, you can see that little reservoir, and then on the right, slightly larger, is the main opening of the ink bottle to the ink. So let's see if I can get this all on camera without getting my hands in the way. So we unscrew at the rear, pull out the vac rod, and we get my shop towel for cleaning purposes all ready. I'm going to submerge the nib and a tiny bit of the section, and then press down. Let's see if I can get that all in. Yeah, pretty much all in. Camera. And again, as we get beyond this point where the barrel will expand slightly, that's when the ink will be sucked up. So let me see if I can do this one-handed on camera. There we go. Beautiful. Now you can do this more than once to get a fuller fill, and there are techniques to get the barrel fully filled, but this is good enough for the moment so that we can also see the ink slosh around. So we'll tighten this down again. And there's that lovely King's Gold ink. Now, if you've seen previous videos I've done on vac fills, such as this earlier one from Asvine, you know that when you screw the rod fully down, it's actually sealing the ink reservoir from the section and nib. So there's a limited amount of ink that's currently in the section feed and going to the nib. And with a vac fill, if you're going to use it, so that's great for like airline travel. You're not going to have, with pressure changes, you're not going to have ink rushing out of your pen like you would potentially with a piston filler. So it really seals this entire chamber. But eventually, if you write long enough, the section, feed, and nib are going to be starved of ink. And so all you need to do with a vac fill is you just crack that seal. Just pull back a tiny bit, boom. And then the ink can flow once again to the section, feed, and nib. And many people, if they know they're going to be writing for a while with a vac fill, will just keep this cracked open. And then it operates like a normal reservoir pen, piston filler, for example. I'm just going to shut the valve for this writing sample. Going to open the slope again. Nice leather cover on the wood. Take out the writing pad. Again, this is Stipula. Wonderful Italian pen maker. See if it identifies the paper in any way. It doesn't look like it. Had this also for many years. I guess when I purchased a Stipula pen in the past. And okay, and this is the King's Gold ink. So this is the first time I've actually used this pen. Get some, actually the vertical lines are a bit thicker even without pressure than the horizontal lines. That's interesting. I haven't really examined the tip of this nib with a loop. It's a conventional nib. It's not a long blade or architect nib, but there is some slight variation. And if I press down, you can see more. Wow. So let me do the traditional. So Asvine nibs have been moving towards this, as have Hongdian nibs, becoming a bit softer and allowing a modicum of flexibility with pressure. It's not a stub, it's not a architect nib, and it's certainly not a flex nib, but you can get some line variation. Now let's take a look at the previous model, titanium. And this is, did I call this a vac fill? I might have, as I was worrying about lighting and getting everything in camera. But this model is a piston fill, but it is titanium, as with the new vac fill V200. So let's see if we get any. Yeah, you can push some line variation here as well. Pushed a little bit too much there. I would say, just for first impressions though, that nib on the V200 is a touch softer, and you can get a little bit more line variation than with the previous model nib, which is probably about a year old, maybe, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely don't have as much line variation with this older nib, which is a wonderful nib. I've been very impressed with all of the Asvine nibs that I've acquired over the last 2 years that they've been extant as a company. Very smooth, all terrific writers. But again, to point out this slight difference in line variation that you can produce, and I think that's from what I've heard from others. So it's not just a pen sample of one, but what I've heard from others is that the nibs that they're experiencing are also getting a bit softer. So this is not going to be a huge, long video as I normally make and bore you to tears, but I wanted to show you the titanium V200 model. Very handsome pen. And as is the previous Asvine titanium. I'm not going to do measurements. You can find those readily on the website that I'll link below, or on other reviewers' videos who enjoy doing those kind of measurements of every pen. Slightly longer, I should say, than the previous version. But these titanium pens are really, really wonderful in the hand, and kind of split the difference between weight-wise between an all acrylic and a full metal steel pen as far as weight is concerned. So let me focus on the Haas here, which I've turned on his internal auric light for your enjoyment. And if this is the first time watching his nibs video, I say Haas because that's my surname, and that is hare or rabbit in German. Thank you for watching. Please, if you enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe, and send me gold bars. Enjoy your pens. Thanks. So hopefully you enjoyed the demon-voiced Norman in the preceding video, and let me know in the comments below if you prefer to hear that voice in the future rather than this one. I don't know if I can reproduce it quite as well as I did in the preceding video. Enjoy your pens.